Joanna and Austin Forsyth are making headlines lately. These Duggar news stars first became popular through Counting On. Then, when the show ended, they branched out as social media influencers and had a YouTube channel. Austin also works as a contractor. Fans are already aware that Joanna grew up in a strict household with 18 other siblings who follow IBLP practices. But over the years, Joanna has been able to see the truth for herself. Instead of blindly following a lifestyle, she got the ability to question her faith and religious values. It happened right after the scandal with Jinger Duggar. In a new interview, Joanna has revealed a toxic side of her father, Jinger Duggar, as he has a courtship checklist for his kids. It's been a while since Joanna and Austin Forsyth appeared in front of TV screens. Yet they are very comfortable sharing about their life on social media. Recently, they appeared in the Unplanned podcast and talked about their stance on faith and religion. Joanna was quick to address how her sister Jinger's redefining her faith gave her the courage to do so. She admitted to not knowing what even is real after reading Jinger's book, Becoming Free Indeed. My story of disentangling faith from fear. But Joanna talking to her sister before reading her book helped her realize she can have all the time she needs to process and redefine her relationship with faith. Similarly, Joanna ended up recalling some borderline questionable things she witnessed while growing up, like her father Jim Bob's courtship checklist. While talking about her IBLP lifestyle, Joanna Duggar got very candid about her courtship period. And so did her husband Austin Forsyth. Duggar News followers who have also watched the show must know how they encouraged kids to court for marriage as they turned 16. They found it better and more foolproof than dating to choosing partners for marriage. Joanna and Austin revealed that her father, Jim Bob Duggar, had a checklist for the suitors. It would have questions about their family planning, financial standings, religious beliefs, and so on. The latter intervened and said that there were some things on the list which shouldn't have been Jim Bob's business, like if the person has an arrest record. But Joanna felt that it was an easy and quick way to get to know a suitor for their kids, so she didn't mind at the time. But years later, after looking back, she wants to tweak a bit of things from the courting list. How do you feel about Jim Bob's practice of having a checklist? Tell us in the comments. Keep an eye on TV season and spoilers for more Duggar News updates. Joanna Duggar is opening up about her experience of growing up as a daughter of Jim Bob Duggar. The Counting On alum recently sat down for a bombshell interview with the Unplanned podcast, where she and her husband Austin Forsyth went into detail about the strict rules they had to follow when they began dating. Joanna, the 9th child born to Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, is known for being part of the famous family behind TLC's 19 Kids and Counting. Her parents raised their children in the Institute in Basic Life Principles IBLP, a controversial Christian organization that a number of her adult siblings have since spoken out against. Part of growing up in the strict, religious family in Arkansas meant some harsh rules for the Duggar daughters when it came to dating or courting, such as rules against holding hands and even wearing pants. But Joanna, now 26, believes there are some things she would tweak about her dad's courting rules, which included a checklist requirement for any potential suitors. That's one thing that I'm like, I appreciate the idea behind it, Joanna said in the new podcast interview, while noting, I think I would tweak it some. Any guy can come in, especially since we grew up on TV. Any guy could have come in and filled out the questionnaire and answered all the right questions. Joanna also revealed that the standards for dating in her household were very different for the Duggar daughters than they were for the sons. They obviously have some ground rules, she explained, while noting that the specific standards for courtship are usually set by the girl's parents. As a result, Joanna said there has been a wide variety of how each of her brothers' relationships have gone. But the process did at least work out for Joanna in the long run, as she married Austin in 2017 and they have since welcomed 3 children together. Counting On alum Joanna Duggar Forsyth is getting a lot of attention following her recent podcast. The 26-year-old shared some heartbreaking stories about her family, especially when things fell apart after Jill and Jinger released their books. However, it also gave her a realization regarding her faith. Another thing that Joanna talked about was the horrifying dating tradition of her family. Keep reading to see what it was. One of the topics Joanna talked about in the Unplanned podcast was about one of the darkest times of her family. According to the Counting On alum, Jill and Jinger's books against the IBLP brought them so much stress. My siblings and my parents and all this stuff was super hard at that time, she recalled, as her parents were put in the hot seat for months following the memoirs. The mother of three even confessed questioning if everything that's been happening to their family was real. But she was also thankful that her sister's memoir somehow enlightened her when it comes to her beliefs. Jinger Duggar Forsyth also talked about the horrifying dating tradition of her family during the same podcast. According to the former Counting On star, her dad would regularly file hundreds of guys who wanted to date his daughters, adding that some of them were even prison inmates. She later revealed that there were so many letters from random men almost every day, and Michelle had to read them first. My mom obviously would read them first because she's like, "This is weird," but then we all laugh about it, she added. Meanwhile, Austin revealed that Jim Bob has a vetting process for men who want to date his daughters. This is obviously when the show was still blown and going, he said, adding that it was the reason why Jim Bob wanted to have a month and a half of relationship with him before allowing him for his daughter. During the same podcast, Jinger Duggar Forsyth shared the time when she and Austin broke a courtship rule for the first time. According to the Counting On alum, she held Austin's hands for about 15 minutes when he totaled his truck. Jim Bob and one of his sons were there, and Joanna's brother told their dad about it. Joanna admitted that her father looked disappointed about it, but it seems it never became a big deal due to the incident. Tontatown, Arkansas. Austin Forsyth, husband of Jinger Duggar Forsyth, recently shared a unique glimpse into his courtship experience, specifically the process initiated by his father-in-law, former Arkansas State Representative Jim Bob Duggar. During their appearance on the Unplanned podcast with Matt and Abby Howard on October 16th, Austin spoke about the courtship checklist Jim Bob provided to all potential suitors of his daughters. And man, I think the questions in the list, a lot of them were good. Just figuring out where somebody is with their religious beliefs and finances and family planning and just different stuff like that. While Austin found some of the questions appropriate, he admitted there were parts he felt were overly invasive. Maybe some of it was not any of his would-be father-in-law's business, he noted. As per In Touch, he further elaborated, but I mean there's like, have you ever, been arrested, have you ever whatever? And so he knew all that. He knew a lot of that kind of stuff. Reportedly, the Duggar family has long practiced courtship, a formal process of getting to know a potential partner before marriage. Their website explains that courtship aims to avoid the typical pitfalls of dating, encouraging family involvement and guidance in identifying important characteristics in a life partner. In response, Joanna, 26, offered a thoughtful perspective. My parents have said, we're gonna have these the way we parent, we want to be kind of a stepping stool for y'all and y'all figure out how to do it better. I appreciate the idea behind it. I think I would tweak it some. Joanna also reflected on the family's well-known values, which were heavily shaped by their public life on TV. Because we grew up on TV, people know our standards are out there, what we allow, what we don't allow, what at least my dad allows. I feel like any guy could have come in and filled out the questionnaire and answered all the right questions and been like, oh yeah, you're good to go. Their courtship became public in November 2016 and married on May 26, 2017. But Austin Forsyth and Jinger Duggar had known each other since childhood. Joanna shared that she met Austin when she was just 4 years old, and he was 8. I have no recollection of that, obviously, but his family had moved from Texas at the time and moved to Arkansas and started coming to my family's church, she explained. The pair crossed paths at homeschool events and social gatherings throughout their teenage years. Eventually, Joanna developed a crush on Austin, though he was involved with another girl at the time. Despite his early romantic interests elsewhere, Austin and Joanna's relationship eventually blossomed. However, the journey wasn't without its challenges, particularly when it came to earning Jim Bob's approval. I went through a little bit of a rebellious time for several years, Austin admitted, describing how he was initially viewed as a wild card due to his secular music preferences and associations with the wrong crowd. Over time, however, Austin managed to convince Joanna's parents to allow him to begin courting her. Their courtship led to marriage in May 2017, and the couple has since welcomed 3 children: Gideon, Evelyn, and Gunnar. Jinger Duggar Forsyth still gets emotional when she looks back at the challenges she endured over the last few years. While appearing alongside her husband Austin Forsyth on the Unplanned podcast, the former 19 Kids and Counting star opened up about navigating her postpartum period amid hard family trials following the birth of her 3rd child Gunnar in May 2023. A year prior, on May 25, 2022, her eldest brother, Josh Duggar, was sentenced to 13 years in prison for receiving and possessing child sexual abuse materials. The disgraced reality star was initially arrested on April 29, 2021, and previously molested multiple young girls, including sisters. In September 2023, Jill released her memoir counting the cost, detailing her experiences. Last January, sister Jinger Duggar published her own memoir, Becoming Free Indeed, My Story of Disentangling Faith from Fear. With Gunnar, I had a super hard postpartum, Joanna emotionally recalled on the podcast. It was like the darkest time of my life. Anyway, but it was really good, but it was super hard. And so I feel like I just went through this with the hormone change. The mother of 3 said dealing with the changes in her hormones were super hard, and at the same time, I felt like my family was just falling apart. Just my siblings and my parents, and all this stuff was super hard at that time, she continued through tears. And so I came to a point where I was just like, what is even real? What do I believe? Like this stuff. Joanna said she eventually came to a point in her life where she entered a rebellion phase and began questioning her faith. I was like, okay, what am I going to believe for myself? She recalled. But I feel like it was good, and I can see now looking back how much God grew me in that season. When she read Jinger's book, she thought about her own relationship with her spirituality and shared how the Duggar family grew up with so many standards. Her parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, never preached that she needed to practice all these things, and then God will accept you. But that's how I took it personally, she said. My whole Christianity was always a checklist, she explained. I gotta read my Bible, check. I gotta pray, check. And so I feel like it all came just crumbling down during my postpartum. My family had a lot of struggles at that time, and then these books come out and I had to work through these things that I had. Never miss a story. Sign up for People's free daily newsletter to stay up to date on the best of what People has to offer. From celebrity news to compelling human interest stories. Joanna shared how she never believed she was going to question her faith until she reached a point where she realized she wasn't perfect. And you don't have it all together. And your world's falling apart. That was a super hard time for us just because I was out of it mentally. I just couldn't handle a lot, she added. Her husband Austin Forsyth revealed that men would approach the Duggar family patriarch, Jim Bob, for the chance to date them. Literally everywhere we went, everyone wanted a Duggar sister, including men behind bars, according to Joanna Duggar Forsyth. On the October 16th episode of the Unplanned podcast, Joanna reflected back on what it was like growing up on their family's TLC television show, 19 Kids and Counting, and the courting offers her father Jim Bob Duggar would receive from men around the country. While opening up about their own dating experience, Joanna, 26, and her husband Austin Forsyth revealed that the Duggar family patriarch would regularly field hundreds of guys who wanted the chance to date his daughters. I had my keepsake boxes. I had letters in there from when I was like 16 to 17, she recalled, noting how random men or guys from jail would pen messages professing their love. My mom obviously would read them first because she's like, this is weird, but then we all laugh about it. Joanna said that one standout man had nice cursive handwriting and wrote this whole long letter about how good he is and is an option for me, and God's telling him that I should marry him, all this kind of stuff. While she only received one letter with pictures from jail, some of her older sisters would receive multiple from men who prison who would watch the show and write letters. Despite the influx of proposals, Joanna revealed that some people would ask to be pen pals rather than asking for their hand in marriage. Some of these requests would be made in person. Austin recalled how men would approach Jim Bob literally everywhere we went, even on family vacations, asking, hey, can I talk to your daughter? Austin added that Jim Bob had a vetting process and confessed that the idea of dating someone on a television show had been intimidating. This is obviously when the show was still blown and going, he explained. I think that's why Jim Bob wanted to have a month-and-a-half relationship with me before, to see how real it is. To introduce a guy onto your family's TV show, and then next season or next episode he's gone, like you just don't want that constant drama, Austin continued. I don't blame him at all for wanting to tell the guys that came like, let's nail it down. Instead, they kept everything quiet, and he and Jim Bob made sure his relationship with Joanna had potential for something greater before going public with it and featuring him on the show. Joanna and Austin got married in May 2017 after getting engaged just a few months after announcing their courtship on the special episode of Counting On. Jinger's wedding in November 2016. The two had been friends for 15 years before dating. In February 2017, Joanna told People that she and Austin had gotten to experience so much already in our relationship, including lots of church ministries, road trips, hiking, hunting, and remodeling houses together. It's really special that I got to grow up with him and my family knows him really well, she said at the time. That was pretty early on in our conversations where he gave me that list and wanted me to fill it out. And man, I think the questions in the list, a lot of them were good. Austin, 30, said during his and Joanna's appearance on the Unplanned podcast with Matt and Abby Howard on Wednesday, October 16th. Just figuring out where somebody is with their religious beliefs and finances and family planning and just different stuff like that. I mean, there's like, have you ever, been arrested? Have you ever whatever? And so he knew all that. He knew a lot of that kind of stuff. Austin continued. The process of courtship, or getting to know a potential romantic partner before entering a marriage, has been practiced by the Duggars for years. According to the family's website, courtship seeks to avoid many of the pitfalls that often exist in dating relationships. Courtship is a commitment to honor and protect both individuals in the process of getting to know one another. Family and mentors often play a significant role in helping a man or woman identify characteristics and traits of a potential partner that are important to know and consider before deciding to get married. Abby, 25, wondered how many men had been disqualified from courtship because of the courtship questionnaire. See, that's where I'm like, I don't know. Joanna, 26, replied. My parents have said, we're gonna have these. The way we parent, we want to be kind of a stepping stool for y'all and y'all figure out how to do it better. I appreciate the idea behind it. I think I would tweak it some. Continue, because we grew up on TV, people know our standards are out there, what we allow, what we don't allow, what at least my dad allows. I feel like any guy could have come in and filled out the questionnaire and answered all the right questions and been like, oh yeah, you're good to go. Austin and Joanna announced their courtship in November 2016, when the Duggar daughter was 18 years old. However, they had known each other since childhood. Elsewhere on the podcast, the mom of 3 said that she met her then future husband when she was just 4 years old and he was 8 years old. I have no recollection of that, obviously, but his family had moved from Texas at the time and moved to Arkansas and started coming to my family's church.